My parents backed my cheating ex when I paid for every holiday and repair, so I cut ties, moved cities and thrived alone in silence. I'm a 27-year-old guy, and for most of my life, I believed being useful was how you earned love in a family that never said it out loud. In my house, affection wasn't hugs or praise, it was approval that came quietly, only if you didn't complain and didn't need anything back. I learned early that my role was to be the responsible one. The fixer. The planner. The person everyone turned to when something went wrong. My parents used to say it like it was a compliment. "You're just stronger than the rest of us," my dad would say, clapping my shoulder. "You can handle things," my mom would add, already handing me another problem to solve. So I did. Every time. I learned how to swallow stress and turn it into action. Bills, logistics, last-minute plans. If someone needed help, I stepped in before they even finished asking. It felt like purpose. It felt like belonging. Then I met my girlfriend. She slipped into my life easily, and even easier into my family's. Suddenly she was at every holiday dinner, every weekend outing, every family discussion that somehow turned into a group decision. My parents loved her almost immediately. My mom would smile and say, "She fits so well with us." I paid for almost everything without making a show of it. Vacations, hotel rooms, gas, car repairs, emergency expenses, anything that could cause tension, I quietly covered. I told myself I wasn't buying love. I was buying peace. "Wow," my dad would say, impressed. "You really take care of things." My mom would laugh and tell my girlfriend, "You're lucky to have him." Those words kept me going longer than they should have. They made me feel seen, even if only for what I could provide. I believed loyalty flowed upward, that if I carried enough weight, stayed calm enough, gave enough, no one would ever walk away from me. I didn't realize yet that being needed wasn't the same as being valued, and that the moment I stopped carrying everything, I'd find out how replaceable I really was. At first, the dynamic felt natural, almost comforting. I paid because I could, and because no one ever told me not to. My girlfriend would say things like, "I'll get you back someday," with a soft smile that made it sound romantic instead of vague. Someday felt close back then. Manageable. Slowly, without any formal conversation, I became the default solution. If her car made a noise, she'd sigh and say, "I don't know what I'm going to do," and I'd already be pulling out my phone. If a holiday was coming up, my parents would casually ask, "So what are you planning this year?" Not we, just me. I covered flights, hotels, meals, excursions. I told myself it was temporary. Whenever a small doubt crept in, I pushed it down. When she started guarding her phone more closely, I told myself privacy was healthy. When she came home late and brushed off questions with, "You're overthinking again," I believed her. I didn't want to be the guy who ruined things by being suspicious. Once, I mentioned feeling stretched thin. Not angry, just tired. My mom frowned like I'd said something inappropriate. "She's been through a lot," she said gently. My dad added, "You don't nickel and dime someone you love." That shut me up fast. I learned that even bringing up balance made me sound selfish. So I doubled down instead. I paid faster. I asked fewer questions. I smiled more at family dinners while my chest stayed tight the entire night. My girlfriend started expecting it, not demanding, just assuming. If I hesitated, she'd go quiet. No fight. Just distance. And somehow, I always ended up apologizing. What scared me most wasn't the money. It was how normal it all felt. How everyone seemed comfortable with me being the engine while they enjoyed the ride. There were moments, small, sharp ones, when I felt like I was standing outside my own life, watching myself perform. And every time that feeling surfaced, I told myself the same thing: this is what commitment looks like. I didn't realize yet that I wasn't building a future, I was financing everyone else's comfort, while quietly draining my own. And something underneath it all was already shifting, waiting to crack. The first crack didn't come with shouting or drama. It came quietly, in a moment so small I almost ignored it. She told me she was staying late at work, but when I checked our shared calendar later that night, her shift had ended hours earlier. I stared at my phone longer than I should have, waiting for the explanation to magically appear. When she finally came home, I tried to sound calm. "Hey, didn't you get off earlier today?" I asked, leaning against the counter. She didn't miss a beat. "Plans changed," she said, already walking past me. Something in her tone, flat, dismissive, stuck with me. Not guilt. Not anger. Just confidence. Like she knew I wouldn't push. And I didn't. I told myself it was nothing. People forget to update calendars. I was tired. But that night, sleep didn't come easily. My chest felt tight, my thoughts looping. The next few weeks brought more moments like that. Late nights. Vague answers. Her phone face down on the table, always on silent. If I asked a follow-up question, she'd sigh and say, "Why are you interrogating me?" Eventually, I brought it up gently. "I'm not accusing you," I said. "I just feel off." She crossed her arms. "So now I'm doing something wrong because you're insecure." That word, insecure, landed hard. Suddenly, the conversation wasn't about her behavior anymore. It was about my flaw. And I hated that feeling more than the doubt itself. I went to my parents, thinking they'd ground me. Give perspective. Instead, my mom shook her head. "You always overthink," she said. "You've got a good thing. Don't sabotage it." My dad laughed lightly. "Women need space sometimes. You don't want to be controlling." I nodded, even though my stomach twisted. I felt embarrassed for bringing it up at all. Ashamed for doubting someone everyone else trusted so easily. That was the moment I learned something important. When I felt uneasy, no one wanted to know why. They just wanted me to stop feeling it. And for the first time, I wondered what would happen if I didn't. After that conversation, I stopped talking and started watching. Not in a dramatic way. Quietly. Carefully. Like someone who didn't trust their own instincts anymore but couldn't ignore them either. I hated myself for it at first. It felt disloyal, almost cruel, to pay attention this closely. But the unease wouldn't leave. Patterns started forming once I looked. She'd say she was with coworkers, but names never matched stories. She'd mention events I was never invited to, then get defensive if I asked who else was there. Her phone became an extension of her body, always locked, always angled away from me. If I entered the room, conversations ended. The proof didn't come in one explosive reveal. It came in pieces. A message preview that disappeared too fast. A name I didn't recognize popping up again and again. One night, she left her phone in the bathroom while she showered, and it buzzed. I didn't pick it up at first. I stood there, heart pounding, staring at the counter like it was a loaded weapon. When I finally looked, my hands were shaking. The message was short. Casual. Familiar. Can't stop thinking about last night. Everything slowed down after that. I scrolled, numb, reading weeks of conversations that painted a life I wasn't part of. Jokes, plans, intimacy, things she told me she was too tired for. I sat on the edge of the tub, cold tile under my feet, feeling something inside me collapse. What hurt wasn't just the cheating. It was realizing how much of myself I'd poured into a relationship that ran on my money and my silence. Every vacation. Every repair. Every sacrifice suddenly felt transactional, and I'd been the only one paying. I didn't confront her right away. I needed air. I needed clarity. I needed someone to tell me I wasn't crazy. So I gathered everything, screenshots, timelines, dates, and drove to my parents' house, convinced that facts would finally matter. As I pulled into their driveway, my chest felt tight with dread, but I still believed the truth would change things. I thought once they saw it, they'd stand with me. I didn't know yet that this was the moment where the betrayal would stop being just hers, and start cutting much deeper. I remember sitting at my parents' kitchen table, the same one where I'd done homework as a kid and paid bills as an adult. The overhead light hummed softly, and my mom poured coffee like this was just another ordinary conversation. My hands were sweating as I laid my phone on the table between us. "I need you to look at this," I said, my voice tighter than I wanted it to be. They scrolled slowly. Messages. Dates. Photos. Long pauses filled the room. I watched their faces, waiting for shock, anger, something. My dad cleared his throat. My mom sighed, like she was disappointed, but not in the way I expected. "Well," she said carefully, "relationships are complicated." I blinked. Complicated? My dad leaned back in his chair. "People make mistakes. It doesn't mean everything has to be thrown away." I felt heat rush to my face. "She's been lying to me for months," I said. "I've been paying for everything. I didn't even know who she really was." My mom shook her head. "You're focusing too much on the betrayal and not enough on what you've built." Built. Like it was a house that might lose value if I walked away. "She wouldn't have done this if she didn't feel neglected," my dad added. "You work a lot." That's when my chest dropped. Somehow, without anyone saying it directly, the responsibility had shifted. Her cheating became context. My reaction became the problem. "You're being dramatic," my mom said softly. "Don't ruin your future over emotions." I stared at them, waiting for someone to say my name. To say, "This isn't okay." Instead, they talked about forgiveness, image, and how much I'd already invested. As if the money mattered more than the damage. I left that house feeling smaller than when I arrived. Sitting in my car, hands gripping the steering wheel, I realized something terrifying: the people who raised me weren't asking if I was hurt. They were asking me to stay quiet and pay the cost. And in that moment, I understood this wasn't just about a cheating partner anymore. It was about where I stood in my own family, and how easily I could be replaced if I stopped carrying everything. After that night, everything shifted in a way I didn't have words for yet. My parents didn't just stay neutral, they leaned in. I started hearing things indirectly, the way truth leaks out when people assume you already know. My mom mentioned, almost casually, that she'd checked on my girlfriend. "She's really upset," she said, like that explained everything. Upset. Not remorseful. Not accountable. Just upset. A few days later, my dad called and told me I needed to be patient. "She's fragile right now," he said. "Don't push her." I remember gripping my phone, my heart pounding. "What about me?" I asked quietly. There was a pause. Then he sighed. "You're strong. You'll be fine." That sentence broke something in me. It wasn't said with cruelty, it was said with certainty. Like my pain was assumed to be survivable, therefore irrelevant. From that point on, my parents started framing me as the obstacle. If I didn't want to talk to her, I was cold. If I set boundaries, I was stubborn. If I mentioned the cheating, I was stuck in the past. Meanwhile, they kept reassuring her. Encouraging her. Making space for her emotions while mine stayed uninvited. I found out my mom had invited her over for coffee. Alone. No warning. No conversation with me first. When I confronted them, my mom snapped, "We're trying to keep things from getting worse." Worse for who? Every sacrifice I'd made was suddenly rewritten as obligation. The trips I paid for were choices. The repairs were part of being a partner. The years of carrying everyone quietly were dismissed like they never counted. I started feeling like I was watching my own erasure in real time. Like the version of me who gave endlessly was welcome, but the moment I asked to be protected, I became inconvenient. That was when it hit me, the cheating hurt, but this was something else. This was my family showing me exactly how conditional their loyalty was. And for the first time, I realized I was standing completely alone, even in a room full of people who claimed to love me. The night I hit rock bottom didn't look dramatic from the outside. No yelling. No slammed doors. Just me, sitting on the edge of my bed in the dark, staring at a wall I'd memorized after so many sleepless nights. My phone was face down beside me, buzzing every few minutes with messages I didn't have the strength to read. I felt stupid. That was the word that kept looping in my head. Stupid for believing effort could protect me. Stupid for thinking money could buy loyalty. Stupid for confusing endurance with love. My chest felt heavy, like I was carrying something lodged under my ribs that wouldn't move. I replayed everything, the holidays I paid for, the problems I fixed before anyone asked, the way I'd been praised for being easy. I finally understood what that meant. Easy didn't mean kind. It meant convenient. I had made myself so useful that no one thought about what it would cost me to disappear. At some point, I picked up my phone and scrolled through old photos. Smiling faces. Group trips. Moments that looked warm on the surface but felt hollow now. I realized something painful: if I stopped paying, stopped smoothing things over, stopped forgiving, there was nothing left holding me in place. I tried imagining staying. Marrying her. Sitting across from my parents at holidays where everyone pretended nothing happened. I felt nauseous. My hands started shaking. For the first time in my life, the idea of continuing scared me more than walking away. I whispered out loud, "No one is coming to save me." That sentence hurt, but it also clarified everything. There was no final argument to win. No apology that would suddenly fix the imbalance. The role I'd been cast in didn't include protection. It only included endurance. By the time the sun started creeping through the blinds, something inside me had gone quiet. Not numb, resolved. I knew I was done trying to be understood. I didn't know exactly how I would leave yet. I just knew I couldn't stay. And for the first time, choosing myself felt terrifying, and necessary. I didn't announce my decision. I didn't sit anyone down or explain myself for the 100th time. I'd already said everything that mattered, and all it had done was teach me how invisible I was. So I chose silence instead. I ended the relationship on a weekday evening, calmly, with my voice steady in a way that surprised even me. "I'm done," I said. "I'm not fighting anymore." She stared at me like she was waiting for the rest, the accusation, the anger, the bargaining. When it didn't come, she scoffed. "So you're really going to throw everything away?" Everything. Like it all belonged to her too. I didn't argue. I packed what I needed while she watched, arms crossed, already texting someone the moment I turned away. That hurt more than I expected, but it also confirmed something I'd been avoiding. I was replaceable the second I stopped providing. With my parents, I did something different. I didn't confront them. I didn't explain. I just slowed down. Messages went unanswered longer. Calls became shorter. Eventually, I stopped initiating entirely. No dramatic goodbye. No final speech. Just distance. I found an apartment listing in another city late one night, clicked save, and felt a strange sense of relief wash over me. Within weeks, my life fit into a few boxes and the trunk of my car. As I loaded the last one, my phone stayed silent. No one asked where I was going. No one tried to stop me. The drive out felt unreal. Familiar streets blurred past, and with every mile, the pressure in my chest loosened just a little. I kept waiting for regret to hit, for panic, guilt, something. Instead, there was only a quiet sadness and an even quieter clarity. I realized then how easy it was for me to leave, and how telling that was. When I crossed the city limit sign, I didn't feel like I was running away. I felt like I was finally stepping out of a role I'd been trapped in for years. And even though I didn't know what came next, I knew one thing for certain: no one was coming after me. The new city didn't greet me with anything special. No sense of destiny. No fresh start montage. Just unfamiliar streets, gray buildings, and the quiet hum of traffic outside my small apartment window. And honestly, that was exactly what I needed. For the first time in years, no one expected anything from me. The first few weeks felt strange in my body. I'd wake up tense, already bracing for demands that never came. No texts asking for help. No family group chats planning something I'd end up paying for. I kept checking my phone out of habit, then setting it face down when I remembered there was nothing waiting there anymore. I focused on work because it gave my days structure. Without the constant emotional drain, I noticed how much clearer my head felt. I started staying late because I wanted to, not because I was avoiding home or trying to prove my worth. Slowly, opportunities opened up. People noticed my effort without me having to bleed for it. Money stopped feeling like a weapon pointed at my chest. I paid rent. Bought groceries. Fixed my own car. Every expense was mine, and that made it lighter somehow. I realized how warped my relationship with money had become, how it was tied to approval instead of freedom. Some nights, the loneliness hit hard. I'd sit on the couch, lights off, listening to the city breathe outside. But even that loneliness felt honest. No performance. No pretending. Just me, learning who I was without an audience. Distance gave me perspective I never had before. I started seeing the old patterns clearly, the praise that only came when I gave, the silence when I needed something back. It wasn't subtle anymore. It was obvious. I wasn't missing them the way I thought I would. I was missing the idea of being chosen. And as that truth settled in, I felt something new begin to grow, quiet, fragile, but real. A sense that maybe my life didn't have to revolve around proving I deserved a place. Something shifted once survival turned into stability. It wasn't dramatic or sudden, it crept in quietly, like my nervous system finally realizing there was no emergency anymore. I stopped waking up with that familiar knot in my stomach. I started sleeping through the night. My body felt lighter, even when my days were full. Work became different when I wasn't emotionally drained before the day even started. I spoke up more in meetings. I took on projects because they interested me, not because I needed to prove I was dependable. A few months in, my manager pulled me aside and said, "You've really stepped up." I smiled, thanked him, and didn't feel the urge to tell anyone else. That surprised me the most. In the past, I would have called my parents immediately. Shared the win. Waited for approval. This time, my phone stayed on the table. The silence felt intentional, not lonely. I built routines that belonged only to me. Morning walks. Cooking meals I actually enjoyed. A gym membership I used consistently. I made friends slowly, people who asked questions and listened without expecting anything in return. No one needed fixing. No one needed saving. That alone felt revolutionary. There were moments when I almost reached out. Late at night, scrolling through old photos, I'd think, they should know I'm doing well. Then I'd stop. Because deep down, I knew that version of me, the one who shared success for validation, was the same one they only valued when he was useful. Thriving without witnesses taught me something important: my growth didn't need an audience to be real. The promotions, the savings, the confidence, I didn't owe those updates to anyone who couldn't show up when I was breaking. For the first time, my life felt like it belonged to me instead of being on display for approval. And while part of me still wondered if they'd ever notice my absence, a stronger part had already accepted the truth: peace came from not waiting to be seen. It happened on a random Tuesday night. I was halfway through dinner when my phone buzzed for the first time in hours. I almost ignored it. Almost. When I saw my mom's name on the screen, my chest tightened in a way I hadn't felt for months. The message was short. "We've been thinking about you. Hope you're doing okay." No apology. No acknowledgement. Just a soft knock on a door they'd slammed shut themselves. A few minutes later, my dad followed up with a longer text about how families go through phases, and how it might be time to move forward. Reading it, I felt strangely calm. Like I was watching a scene I'd already lived through, but from a safe distance. Then came the updates I never asked for. My ex had been struggling. She missed me. Things hadn't worked out for her the way she expected. My mom framed it gently, almost sympathetically, as if I should understand. As if I hadn't been the one paying the price for years. I stared at the screen, waiting for the anger to rise. It didn't. Instead, there was a quiet clarity. None of the messages asked how I'd survived that period. None of them said, "We were wrong." They just wanted access again, now that I was stable, calm, successful. Safe to approach. I typed a response. Deleted it. Typed another. Deleted that too. I realized there was nothing left to explain. They hadn't misunderstood me before. They had understood perfectly, and chosen themselves anyway. I put my phone down and finished my meal. The food was still warm. My apartment was still quiet. My life was still mine. That night, I slept better than I had in years. And when I woke up, their messages were still unread. For the first time, I understood that closure didn't come from confrontation. It came from choosing not to reopen a door that had only ever led to silence on the other side. Cutting ties didn't feel like revenge the way people imagine it. There was no victory speech. No dramatic confrontation. Just a slow, deliberate choosing of myself, again and again, until it became natural. I stopped waiting for the apology that was never coming. I stopped hoping someone would finally say, "You didn't deserve that." The truth was harder and simpler at the same time. They chose what was easiest for them, and I chose what was necessary for me. That was the line. I used to think walking away meant failure. That it meant I wasn't strong enough to fix things. Now I understand it was the strongest decision I ever made. Strength wasn't enduring disrespect. Strength was refusing to normalize it. There are still quiet moments when memories surface. A family dinner. A holiday trip. A version of myself who believed loyalty was something you earned by overextending. When that happens, I don't push the feeling away. I let it pass through me, like weather. Because it no longer defines me. My life now is smaller in some ways, and infinitely bigger in others. I have peace I don't have to negotiate for. Relationships that don't require me to bleed quietly. A sense of self that isn't tied to how much I give or how easy I make things for others. Sometimes I wonder if they tell my story differently. If I'm the ungrateful one. The dramatic one. The one who changed. I've made peace with that too. You can't control the narrative when you leave a system that benefited from your silence. What I know is this: I didn't lose my family. I lost the version of them that only existed as long as I stayed small, useful, and quiet. I built a life they don't get to take credit for. I healed without their permission. And I learned that belonging isn't something you buy with sacrifice, it's something you feel when you're finally safe being yourself. Walking away didn't make me alone. It made me free.